Like, there wasn't that much effort that was shown on the court.
These t-shirts, whoever told them to do this was a bad move. The WNBA is getting crushed, obliterated, really bad. There's not a drap or drip of defense in this game.
They come out in the All-Star Game wearing "Pay us what you owe us" t-shirts.
Were so excited and happy to be there. They just didn't put that much effort on the court.
WNBA players whose salaries are subsidized by the NBA wear t-shirts declaring "Pay us what you owe us." What exactly are you owed? You know what I mean? What exactly are the WNBA players
winning by over 20 points at halftime? And I was like, you know what? Like, let's watch Glorilla.
WNBA players whose salaries are subsidized by the NBA wear t-shirts declaring "Pay us what you owe us."
Because Caitlin Clark is the only player.
Because as much as I'm disappointed in the effort that was shown on the court, and I do think that this was an opportunity, even with all the CBA negotiations and the shirts that they were wearing, to really prove like, hey, look at this product, look at the ratings that we can get.
These players are already getting paid 6 figures plus to only work four months out of the year. They're getting paid 6 figures plus to show up at practice for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, go home and sit on the couch.
This backfired from a PR standpoint royally. How does the math break down? Oh, God.
And I totally get the players feeling like, look, we don't want to go out there and risk our body and expend all of this energy. Obviously, we want to put on a good show and we want to do something that the fans enjoy, but we're kind of stretched a little thin here.
USA versus the All-Star team. It was a fairly competitive game. We saw the All-Star team play well, play hard. We got basketball last year, competitive basketball at that, entertaining basketball. This year, it was a three-point contest. This year was a disaster. This year was a catastrophe. They inputted the 4-point shot again, and all these ladies were doing were jacking up fours, play hard. They were full court pressing Caitlin Clark. We got assists from CC to Angel, from CC to AB.
Holy crap. Can we pay them to go away? Looked, none of those terms are putting enough emphasis on how bad they're getting destroyed right now.
The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was meant to be a celebration, a chance to spotlight the best talents in the league, showcase rising stars, and offer a moment of unity for fans and players alike. But instead, it spiraled into one of the most polarizing moments in recent league history. At the heart of the chaos, Angel Reese, one of the most recognized faces in the sport, now reportedly facing suspension after wearing a shirt that turned the event into a firestorm of controversy. On July 20th, the mood around the WNBA shifted. The league found itself thrust into a whirlwind of backlash after all-star players arrived on the court wearing black shirts boldly printed with the phrase, "Pay us what you owe." What was expected to be a fun, lighthearted exhibition match suddenly felt like a protest. Fans at home were expecting fierce competition. Instead, they were met with what looked like a half-hearted scrimmage wrapped in a message no one was prepared for. And it wasn't just a couple of players participating. Nearly the entire All-Star lineup came out in the same shirts, signaling that this was not a random or isolated act. This was coordinated, intentional, and among those leading the charge was Angel Reese, standing front and center with the message proudly displayed across her chest. Behind her, other players held signs demanding better pay and treatment. And while the visual was certainly striking, the response it triggered was not what they had in mind. What followed was a media and fan uproar. Social platforms exploded with commentary. Prominent news outlets covered it from every angle, and the tone quickly turned critical. Viewers weren't just disappointed in the protest, they were frustrated with the overall effort on the court. There was no defense, no energy, and no urgency. The game, meant to be a show of elite talent, devolved into players launching 3- and 4-point shots with no structure, no rhythm, and no real competitiveness. Even standout performances got lost in the noise. Nafisa Collier dropped 36 points. Skylar Diggins recorded a triple-double, but no one was talking about the numbers. All attention was focused on the shirts and what they represented. Instead of celebrating the athletes' achievements, headlines focused on discontent and the backlash surrounding the message. The controversy was compounded by the fact that Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation who had brought a wave of attention to the league, was absent due to injury. Yet, her face was used extensively in promotional materials for the game. Fans tuned in expecting to see a star-studded matchup centered around Caitlin. What they got was something entirely different. A game stripped of competitive spirit and dominated by protest. And while there are certainly valid concerns around pay and recognition within the league, the way this message was delivered left many supporters feeling alienated. The league reportedly received no prior notice of the protest. Sponsors were blindsided, executives were caught off guard, and now rumors are swirling that multiple players, including Angel Reese, could face disciplinary action. The league is in a precarious position. With financial losses mounting year after year, the WNBA has relied heavily on NBA funding to stay afloat. And while viewership and merchandise sales have improved, largely due to the explosive popularity of newcomers like Caitlin Clark, the league is still struggling to operate in the black. This is not lost on fans or analysts who are now questioning the logic behind demanding higher pay without delivering a stronger product. And that's where Angel Reese finds herself at the center of a very uncomfortable conversation. Known for her confidence and charisma, Reese has become a polarizing figure. Her presence draws attention. But now, that attention is focused on whether she crossed a line. Was the protest the right message at the wrong time? Did it do more harm than good? And most importantly, should players be held accountable for actions that potentially impact league sponsorships and fan engagement? Reports from within the league suggest that sponsors were furious, not because they disagreed with the sentiment, but because they weren't given a heads up. In the world of professional sports, optics matter, messaging matters, and coordination matters. This wasn't just a locker room statement, it was a public protest on a nationally televised platform, and the league is now scrambling to manage the fallout. From a business perspective, the protest couldn't have come at a worse time. The WNBA is currently in the middle of sensitive negotiations regarding the collective bargaining agreement. These discussions are complex, involving everything from travel accommodations to media rights. A surprise protest during the league's most visible event of the season didn't just shift the narrative, it added pressure and uncertainty to already tense discussions. And then there's the matter of effort. Even those who supported the message found it difficult to defend the lack of intensity during the game itself. If you're asking for more pay, more visibility, more support, fans expect to see that same energy reflected in how you play. That wasn't the case during this All-Star showcase. What viewers saw instead was a disengaged group of players going through the motions, turning what should have been a celebration of the sport into something many described as lifeless. In the days since, criticism has only intensified. Pundits, fans, and even some former players have weighed in, questioning not just the appropriateness of the protest, but the way it reflected on the league as a whole. Some called it brave, others called it selfish, but the one word that kept coming up again and again: disappointing. Angel Reese may soon face consequences, not because of what she said, but because of how she chose to say it. Timing, execution, and context all matter. In a league trying to gain momentum and expand its fan base, surprises like this can derail everything. The goal was likely to start a conversation, but what resulted was confusion, frustration, and a very public distraction. And here's the irony. If any player truly has the leverage to make a financial demand right now, it's Caitlin Clark. She's the one filling arenas. She's the one pushing ratings. She's the one moving merchandise and injecting new life into the sport. The unfortunate truth is that while Angel Reese's voice is powerful, the numbers don't back up the timing of this protest. And fans noticed. In the aftermath of the All-Star Game, the league is left with a fractured image and a growing mountain of criticism. What should have been a weekend to celebrate talent and unity has instead turned into a crisis management scenario. And as the dust settles, the league's leadership is being forced to take a hard look at what went wrong, who is responsible, and how to prevent future disruptions. The rumors around Angel Reese's possible suspension aren't coming out of thin air. Multiple sources have reported that league officials are deeply concerned with how the protest blindsided stakeholders. Executives, broadcasters, and sponsors, all left without a roadmap or a heads up, were forced to react in real time to a moment that should have been carefully planned and discussed beforehand. And that's where the league may choose to make an example of someone to reassert order. That someone, at least according to current speculation, is Angel Reese. Her presence in the spotlight during the protest, combined with her large social media following and high visibility, made her the unofficial face of the movement. And with that comes responsibility and consequences. No one is saying that she orchestrated the entire event alone, but in today's world, optics are everything. And when the leading images of the All-Star Game feature Reese at the center of a coordinated protest, it becomes nearly impossible to separate the action from the individual. Behind the scenes, league executives are walking a tightrope. On one side, they understand the players' frustrations. The issue of fair pay has long been a topic of debate within professional women's sports. On the other side, they're responsible for the league's stability, revenue, and relationships with corporate partners. Allowing players to stage unsanctioned protests on the biggest stage of the year with no warning sets a dangerous precedent, and that's why suspensions are being discussed. One of the most concerning aspects of the protest was its effect on the game itself. Not just in terms of headlines, but in terms of performance. The energy on the court was shockingly low. Players went through the motions, there was no competitive fire, no urgency, and no real attempt to give fans a memorable experience. Instead, it came off as a symbolic gesture lacking the effort to back it up. Fans noticed. They tuned out. And those who stayed online were vocal. The conversation quickly turned from curiosity to criticism. Memes and reactions flooded social media. Analysts pointed out the irony, asking for more compensation while giving less performance. Several comments gained traction that reflected the general frustration. You want more money? Start with more hustle. This was a glorified shoot-around, not a game. They turned the All-Star Game into a message board. None of these responses came from a place of hate. Most came from disillusionment. Fans want to believe in the league. They want to support the players. But support comes with expectations. And when those expectations aren't met, it creates tension. That's what the WNBA is facing now. Not just a PR issue, but a perception one. And what makes it sting even more is that the league had momentum. Real, measurable momentum. Thanks to Caitlin Clark's breakout rookie season, interest in the WNBA reached new heights this year. Television ratings soared. Social engagement exploded. Attendance hit record numbers in several markets. For the first time in years, the league had everyone's attention, and not because of controversy, but because of basketball. Then came the All-Star Game, and just like that, the narrative shifted. Now, instead of celebrating highlights or clutch performances, people are asking tough questions. Why did the players let this moment slip? Why weren't they more prepared to deliver an exciting game? Why did they use this platform for a protest? And was it worth it? These questions aren't going away anytime soon. And unfortunately for Angel Reese, her role in the event means her name is going to stay in the headlines longer than anyone else's. The possibility of suspension isn't just about punishment. It's about restoring order, setting boundaries, making sure future events don't spiral into chaos. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has reportedly been fielding calls from frustrated team owners and sponsors who feel blindsided. Complicating things further, Engelbert was seen socializing with several players during All-Star Weekend, even appearing in selfies. The optics aren't great. It paints a picture of mixed signals, one moment endorsing the players' camaraderie, the next dealing with the fallout of their protest. Insiders now claim that Engelbert is working behind the scenes to stabilize the situation. That might include disciplinary actions ranging from fines to suspensions. And again, Angel Reese, because of her visibility, is likely to be affected. But what happens if she is suspended? What message does that send to the rest of the league? To fans? To sponsors? That's the gamble the WNBA is now taking. If they act too harshly, they risk alienating players and fans who agree with the message. If they don't act at all, they risk losing credibility with sponsors and partners who demand professionalism. There's no easy answer. And that's what makes this situation so delicate. What's also unfortunate is how overshadowed other stories have become. players like Collier and Diggins put on incredible performances. They deserved headlines for their play, not silence. Instead, their achievements got buried under a wave of protest coverage. And that's another unintended consequence. Not only did the protest spark backlash, but it also wiped out the hard-earned moments of players who came to compete. In a strange twist, some fans have begun to say the quiet part out loud, that maybe, just maybe, the league should be built around the one player who is actually driving the numbers, Caitlin Clark. She didn't ask for a raise, she didn't protest, and yet she's the reason so many fans are watching in the first place. Her name is on the back of the best-selling jerseys. Her presence sells out arenas, and yet she wasn't even in the game, and still her shadow loomed large. That's what critics are now pointing to. They say if anyone deserves to wear that shirt, it's Clark. Because while others made headlines through protest, she's done it through performance. She's brought in revenue, fans, and legitimacy. And until others follow suit, the demands for more compensation will always be met with skepticism. Angel Reese, for all her potential, now finds herself at a career crossroads. How she responds to this moment, whether through a statement, accountability, or even silence, will shape how she's viewed moving forward. Leadership in sports doesn't come from wearing a shirt. It comes from showing up when it matters most. On the court, with your team, for the fans. And for the league, it's a wake-up call. If they want to build something lasting, something real, they'll need to make sure the product matches the promise. Because one misstep, one protest, one poorly played game can turn progress into setback overnight. As for Angel Reese's reported suspension, only time will tell what actions the league takes. But one thing is certain, this wasn't just about a shirt. It was about timing, tone, and tension, and the fallout may be felt for much longer than anyone expected.